In order to finish up the coffee cup lab, all students need to complete a report, a lab report, and you are all given in Google Classroom a report template, which I have gone and given filled in some of the information on this example so that we can discuss how yours should be completed. So you had at the top of the report template an area to put a heading, which you can see I'm hovering over with my mouse right now. And I've replaced the word name with my name and the date with the date that I did this work and the class and the teacher and so on. The title is centered below this. I've just created a basic title. Yours does not have to be identical, but this is a good one. And from that point, I moved on to the experimental question. An experimental question should be the driving question behind the investigation. In this case, I've chosen what type of coffee cup holds in heat the best. Having taken a look at some of the work that students have completed, most students came up with something similar. Don't forget that it is a question, so do not make a statement here. Be sure that you type it as a question and include proper punctuation. One note about these section headers, such as experimental question. They should be bold to attract your reader's eye and help them pace their way through the document. Your information should be typed in regular text below that. This is set up to do everything in Times New Roman number 12. You should keep that font and font size throughout the report. The next section of the report is the hypothesis. A hypothesis is, of course, a proposed answer or proposed solution to the question. In this case, I have proposed the hypothesis that the 12-ounce paper cup with a lid will hold and heat the longest and show the least temperature drop because it is the most common type of cup. Now, I don't actually expect that to be true, and I don't believe any other students did, but I've put a hypothesis together like this so that you can see a model of what it might look like. Your hypothesis should not only include what you think will be the result, but also give some reasoning to it. Remember, it's not just a guess, it's judgment, and you should show that in your hypothesis. The next section of the report are the variables, and you have a table of variables that you are to fill out. There are 3 columns: the variable, which in this case is the type of variable, independent, dependent, and controlled. I have room here for 3 controlled variables and an extra line for a 4th. If you need more variables, simply double-click on any one of these lines and choose Insert Row above or below to get additional rows. Once you have enough rows for the variables that you intend to include, you should give each one a name. All right, so in this case, the independent variable is the type of cup, and an explanation. And that explanation should say a little bit about what the variable is, expand upon the name a little bit, and in the case of controlled variables, you should probably focus on explaining how it's going to be controlled. So for example, one of the things we controlled is we heated the water to the same temperature at the beginning in a microwave. So I'm going to just write initial water temperature, which would be, kind of like what we did, right? That's the variable that we tried to control. And over here I might write the water was heated to the same temperature in a microwave for all 8 stations at the same time. All right, just to give you an idea how to do your controlled variables. Again, don't forget to add more of these as you see fit. A well-developed lab report will have all the important steps that were taken to make it a fair test described in this section. So anything done to make this fair should be described here. Your method should be written in past tense, and it's perfectly acceptable to write in the first person. So I've got a sentence header here. 8 different coffee cups were tested. Oh, I've got a typo. 8 different coffee cups were tested by 8 teams of students. The lab was set up in 8 stations, and the ellipsis indicates I'm going to go on. You could as easily say that, reword this as, we tested 8 different coffee cups by forming the class into 8 groups of students and so on. The purpose to writing in past tense is now that you've finished the lab, you can say with confidence what you did. Makes it a little bit easier. And you should sketch out the most important details as to what was needed in order for another group to duplicate this lab. You do not have to tell people every last thing that was done. For example, how to operate a microwave oven. Assume that most people can handle these issues on their own, but give them the outline of the lab so that they could complete it. Data and results. Again, everything is going to be written in a past tense voice where you need to. It's okay to use your first person voice so that you can say we and the team and I, for example. Your data and results should present what you found in the lab. So this is where you're going to need to put a data table. Before you paste in the data table, give some kind of an introduction to it so that your reader knows what is being presented to them. In this case, we're giving them a data table that includes the class data. It would be helpful to tell them which of the 8 stations you and your team performed, so I think you should put that in the introduction as well. I'm going to go into the class data analysis. I have the data table here. Copying it is a matter of simply highlighting it, which is done like so. I'm going to right click and copy this table. I'll go back over to the data and results section and paste it in. If you choose to link it to the spreadsheet, any changes made in the spreadsheet will show up in your report. If you paste it unlinked, a copy of the data table will go here that is not linked to the spreadsheet. I'm going to suggest unlinked in case you have a problem with the original spreadsheet file that would then flow into your lab report and create a problem. Just make sure that your spreadsheet is complete and all set before you do so. There's our data table. We had some discussion about trying to get the data table to fit onto one line or onto one page. That's going to be difficult in this lab report, and it's okay for you to have the data table broken by the page and go on to the next page if necessary. I see a typo here. You're going to want to look for those as you work through your work and find them and correct them as well. The next section of the lab report is the analysis section. In the analysis section, you should reflect upon the results that were obtained during the investigation, meaning your data and the data table and the other class data, and you should reflect upon it with respect to both the lab question, which in this case is what type of cup holds in the heat best, and of course your hypothesis. A good analysis will not only reflect upon these things, but it has got to use information that was developed during the lab to support what you say. Your primary support should be this information here, which is the heat loss rate in degrees per minute. You can say which cup was best by looking at this and determining which lost heat at the lowest rate, i.e. the lowest number. And a good analysis will also make some thoughts or put some thoughts down about why one cup outperformed another. For example, I noticed that these two cups here, cup 1 and cup 2, were both Dunkin' Donuts 12-ounce paper cups. One had a heat loss rate of 1.45, the other 1.13. What was the difference? You probably know, but the lower one had a lid. And we see that same pattern with cups 3 and 4, which also had lids. There is a lesson in there as to what lids do and why they do it. You should make that clear during the analysis, and you should also describe any other insights that you can that this experiment helped you to learn about the cups and cup design and what makes a cup hold in heat. You're doing well so far. Don't forget to write in past tense again, and if you need to use first person, again, it's okay to do so. Finally, the last section of your report. In the analysis, we can't forget that we probably should put in a graph. You've got a great opportunity to add this lovely chart that you created, all right? And I think it would be very nice to put it in there. So if you want to put a chart in, when you click on the chart, you should see the 3 dots in the upper right corner for the chart editor. But if you open that up, you will notice copy chart as an option. copy it, and you can go back to your document and paste it in. There we go. I'm going to make it unlinked as well, just so that we don't have any problems. And in goes the chart. Now, I think I said so. No, I did not. It's important to note that all tables and graphs need to have titles. So above this table, which I forgot to do earlier, I'm going to write table 1, colon, class, coffee, cup, lab, results. And I want to get rid of that little bit of extra space below it. I think I can do that with the line spacing tool, which is located right here. Single space, that looks a little bit better. This should say table 1, not just table. And that works pretty well. Anywhere that I refer to the table up above here, in the description of the data and results, I can just use the name table 1. I don't have to use the full title, but if I say table 1 shown below, people will know what you're referring to. By the same token, a graph should be called a figure, not a graph, a figure. So we can label this figure 1. Okay, and I'm going to give it a title, 8 coffee cups compared. All right, I don't really like that title very much, but it's good enough. Maybe something about temperature performance of 8 coffee cups. That might be a little bit nicer. Anyway, I can now refer to this as figure 1 in the future. All right, so we've completed our analysis. We've completed our method and so on. Finally, the discussion and conclusion. The discussion and conclusion should provide a firm and final answer to your hypothesis. Remember, I made the hypothesis that the first cup, cup 1 would be or cup 2 would be the best, the one with the lid. Let's double check here. Is that my hypothesis? Indeed it is. The 12-ounce paper cup with a lid will hold heat the best. Right here. So I need to go and reflect on this and answer it. Looking at the results here, it is pretty clear that although this went down at a lower rate than the cup without a lid, the stainless steel cup and the styrofoam with a lid outperformed it by a pretty wide margin. So I need to reject my hypothesis, and I'm going to pretty much just say that I got this wrong. I'm going to go right here and say that the goal of the investigation was to determine which cup was the best. Analysis of the cups shows that the best cup was probably the stainless steel mug, which was nearly tied with the styrofoam cup that had a lid. This is shown by, and then you want to make some reference and discuss these numbers and why one is better than the other. You might show which colors they are in the graph and what qualities of that make them demonstrably stand out. This orange right here is the stainless steel cup, and I can see it on this line, and what I notice is that the other lines go down more steeply, but this line is a little bit closer to horizontal than the others. That probably has something to do with being the best. And then I go and I have to say that my hypothesis was rejected, that I was incorrect, and in fact, this other cup was better than the paper cup with a lid. That's about it for the lab report. Remember to complete all the sections, keep it cleaned up and looking neat. Complete everything with an eye towards good grammar, checking your spelling, making certain that you're using correct words, proper academic language, and punctuation. I strongly recommend you have this edited by another person. Do not trust yourself to catch all of your errors. That's why you have another person read it, and preferably have 2 people read it, or 3 if you can. Try to turn in a piece of work that's perfect and well edited. Best of luck, and I guess it's goodbye for now. All right. So, click the stop, and we are done.